boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm ForClassic and welcome to BenchART. So for today what we do have in it is Marvel's Avengers, a game developed by Crystal Dynamics, the same guys behind Tomb Raider, Eidos Montreal, the same guys behind Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided, and also Nixus, which is pretty much a studio that ports Square Enix games from one team to another. From one console or PC platform to another. Alright, so this game it is using the Foundation engine, the same engine that was found behind the Tomb Raider games. Alright, and this is a big change for them because I was not really expecting to see that engine working outside Tomb Raider. So let's start with the settings. So I will be playing throughout this video at 1080p using TAA and AMD Fidelity FX, which in the case of this game it only boosts the sharpening, alright, there is nothing more. There is also a dynamic resolution option, which I had disabled. And throughout the settings, my recommendation for this graphic card is for you to play at median presets, alright. I even was trying to make in here some changes because, for example, the median preset, in my opinion, it has a very low value of anisotropic filtering, which is something that it isn't really demanding. So my recommendation it is for you to use 16, since you will only be losing like 1 or 2 frames per second, so no big deal. Unfortunately for this video I also decided to raise the texture quality to high, which started to have a big impact in performance of the game. So at the middle of the video I decided to revert the settings again to median entirely, including anisotropic filtering, because I was having kind of a much lower frame rate than I used to be when I did test the game at median. But for now, this is what you will see, the median settings with textures on high and 16 times anisotropic filtering. So let's take a look on the requirements. So these guys recommend an AMD Ryzen 5 from the first generation, so I guess we are good in here since I have an AMD Ryzen 5 from the 3000 generation. A lot of improvements have been done by AMD. I'm using also 16 gigs of RAM, which matches the recommended requirements, and I'm using my GTX 1650 Super with 4 gigabytes of VRAM, which is superior to in performance comparing to a 1060 or an AMD Radeon RX 480. The only downside, and again, is that the GTX 1650 Super only have 4 gigabytes of VRAM, while the 1060 of 6 gigabytes, which they do recommend, and AMD RX 580, which they do recommend, offers more VRAM. So we might be running into issues if we push too much out of the game. So I did test the game at 1080p with multiple different settings, and that was surprisingly how bad the game performs. At least my expectations it was that the game would be running better, but that's not really the case. So at the low settings I was having an average of 80 frames per second with a 1% low 59, so I was already having drops below 60 frames per second with the low settings. The median settings, the settings that I do recommend, I got an average of 66 with a 1% low 48. The high settings provided an experience above 30 frames per second, and the very high settings already started to drop below 30 frames per second. You can still even go beyond the very high settings, but I decided to not test it out since I was already having performance issues with the very high presets. So yeah, that's about it. So at 1440p I only tested the low settings and the median settings, and both of them did provide an experience above 30 frames per second. So comparing graphics quality, the low settings looks a little bit bad. Alright, there is even an option below the low settings, which is the lowest, which looks horrible. It disables the shadows and all the lightning effects, so I don't really recommend you to go with the lowest settings, but the low settings it still looks bad. While the median settings, I do think that the median settings it is a very good median settings, because you pretty much get all the checkbox and bells and whistles of the game, aside from the screen space contact shadows. I think that's it. That's something that you don't get at median preset or high preset, and it's not really a big deal in my opinion. But throughout comparing all the rest of the settings, you get all the effects and all the stuff, right? You get shadows, you get depths of field, you get volumetric lighting, you get all this stuff. It isn't just really very well refined. For example, the shadows can be a little bit blocky, the depths of field doesn't seem to be bokeh depths of field, but you get pretty much the entire experience that you should have, and that's good. I do really recommend you median settings, even if you have a stronger GPU and you need to reduce the graphics from high to median, you won't be losing really too much stuff. The only biggest deal that I do think that you lose when you do drop from high settings to median, it is really just the texture quality, but again, you are free to choose whatever the graphics that you want, and you are not locked on to a preset, so you can customize whatever you want. But yes, again, median preset, it is pretty good on this game. So, like I was telling you, I was a little bit surprised with the performance. I was expecting the game to run a little bit better, but at some other point I wasn't really surprised at all, because Nix's and Eidos Montreal and even Crystal Dynamics, every time they do release a Tomb Raider or a Deus Ex game, they usually are very demanding. They usually push a lot of technology into their games. They might not be even the best looking games ever, but they always push the requirements a lot. Every time they do release a new game, that happens. And so, at some point, I was also expecting that from Avengers. And there was also other thing that was a little bit of a red flag for me when I saw it. I could have been thinking about it, but I didn't. Which was the video of Digital Foundry about this game on consoles. PS4 runs this game in a very awful way. There are many sequences which the performance will be pretty much between 20 to 25 frames per second, which in my opinion it is completely unplayable for a console. Consoles running games at 30 frames per second, in my opinion, it is bad, but it is acceptable. But playing games at 20 frames per second, an action game like this, for me it's entirely unacceptable. So when I saw this at Digital Foundry, I could have been thinking that, okay, so PC, the PC version will surely be very demanding. Although, yes, this is the beta version, which means that they can still improve the optimization of the game for both consoles and PC. But since we are just some weeks away from the final version, I'm not really expecting miracles in that regard, but we will see about it. I'm also not expecting to test the game at the release, because this game, it is something different than I was expecting. I was expecting this to be kind of some sort of Tomb Raider or Uncharted or any regular linear single player game, which you did begin, enjoy a story and end. But no, according to Digital Foundry and some other users, yes, these beginning sequences are a little bit like a regular single player game, a linear one, but more forward into the game, this game will transform itself into something like a Destiny 2 or a Warframe. So this will be an MMO game, and I'm not really into that type of games. And so Marvel Avengers, for me, it is a huge disappointment in that regard, because I do feel that they marketed the game in the wrong way, or at least they wanted it probably to market the game as a linear experience, and people were expecting that. But in the end, it is a kind of a Destiny 2, that instead of you have a Bungie style story, what you get, it is the superhero story. So it's a huge disappointment for me in that regard, and I'm no longer interested in playing this game. But that's just me, that I'm usually not into these type of games. But again, talking about the performance, I was expecting this game at some point to run better. It have been a shock recently, because when I brought this graphic card, games were running at ultra settings or high settings, completely above 60 frames per second. There was some exceptions like Control or Red Dead Redemption 2, but in a matter of a month, everything did change. I mean, we had Horizon Zero Dawn, which runs at median and below 60 frames per second for the most part, but Horizon Zero Dawn, it was a bad port. We had Fast and Furious, which nobody cares because it's an awful game. But it is, again, another game that at median settings runs below 60 frames per second. So, again, a huge surprise by its bad optimization. Which, in that case, it is really bad optimization, because the game doesn't look that good. And I can't find a reason for that game to be so demanding. Then we have Flight Simulator 2020, which at the median settings also plays below 60 frames per second, but that one have huge and great visuals, so everything it is justified on that performance. And now we have Marvel's Avengers, that again it is another game in a matter of a week that needs to run at median below 60 frames per second. So I just gone from games that did run at ultra or high settings at 60 frames per second or above to running at median and below 60 frames per second. It was a huge shock for me, but I do understand that these developers are trying to push the envelope and possibly trying to prepare their games for the next generation consoles like PS5 and the new Xbox, and I'm pretty sure they will be porting their games to those consoles, and so obviously they are trying to push the envelope in the graphical settings, so they might be more demanding on the PC right now at the moment because they are preparing it for the new consoles, but that's just the way that I think. So and I think that's all that I want to talk about Marvel Avengers and its performance. Hope you keep enjoying the rest of the gameplay, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
You know, I was thinking today was going to be on fan clubs and funnel cakes.
Focus, Tony.
Avengers, talk to me.
Those tanks are doing a number on the bridge. It could fall if we don't take them out.
Hurry up, big guy. It can't take much more punishment. Where's Big Green?
I got eyes on him. Hulk, bringing in the Quinjet for a landing.
Hulk smash!
Shit!
Charge! Inventions are dangerous, Stark.
Hey, those weapons were meant for the good guys.
Is that supposed to be a joke?
Not the time! Get your heads in the game! Cap, what's going on over there?
Not sure, Nat. Seems like the reactor's malfunctioning. I'm getting strange readings on the monitors, like we're being pulled to a heat signal in the bay.
Down!
Nat, it's going to destroy.
Repeat that, Cap. I'm having trouble hearing.
Nat, do you read? All hands. The Chimera is under attack. Evacuate the civilians.
Fire in the hole! Go, go, go!
Steve, do you read?
Nat! Nat! Carlton, are you there? We're being cut off.
Captain, we have a problem!
I know, Doc. They're trying to hijack the Chimera.
Zotac! I've never seen readings like these.
I'll get to you as soon as I can. I need an update.
The reactor won't stabilize. The turret's molecular structure is breaking down it into a gas. Something below is feeding energy into the reactor. It's extraordinary. Take it down.
Doc, I'll get back to you. The ship can't take much more of this.
I'm trying.
Carlton? Carlton! Avengers, do you read? What's happening out there? Avengers, report!
sights!
Shepard.
Avengers, if you can hear me, the convoy is transporting a highly lethal sonic disruptor bomb. Our enemies intend to detonate it within the city.
We're going down.
I repeat, a sonic disruptor bomb. Secure the asset at once.
Sonic bomb? Are you kidding me? Thought the UN outlawed those years ago.
Let's have a look, shall we?
Now that is an entrance.
Taskmaster.
We need to get that detonator. If that bomb goes off, it could liquefy everything within a 10-mile radius.
Well, what are we waiting for?
Tony, Thor, the cables! I'll handle the freak with the detonator.
Romano!
From one former SEAL agent to another. I've learned a few tricks since we last met.
Oh yeah? Here's one. I'm kicking your ass!
The base of the bridge is secure.
Guys, I'm getting these strange seismic readings.
Tony, truck!
Got it.
Hungry? I'll take this.
You know, I was hoping to face you.
Funny, I've never given you a second thought. Come and get it!
Not so fast.
Oh, did I break your little jetpack?
Doesn't matter. I have this.
Damn it.